Get this. By 2050, 1 in 4 workers
Wow.
worldwide will be African.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's incredible.
Africa's youth population is exploding, and today
Really is.
we're going deep into what that means for
Yeah.
the future of, well, everything.
It really is a fascinating phenomenon.
Hmm.
This deep dive is based on a report about international education opportunities in Africa.
Okay.
But what's striking is
Yeah.
how it goes beyond just who's going to school where.
Okay.
It paints a picture of a continent
Right.
poised to become a major player on the world stage.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Sure.
We hear a lot about demographics,
Yeah.
but what makes Africa's youth boom so unique?
It's the sheer scale and its implications.
Right.
We're talking about over 400 million young people
Wow.
aged 15 to 35.
Right.
That's more than the entire population of the U.S.
Wow.
And they're hungry for education and opportunity.
Yeah.
Imagine the potential impact on the global workforce.
So what does this mean for someone listening right now?
Yeah.
Let's say you're in finance, technology,
Right.
or even the arts.
Sure.
How does this African youth surge change the game?
Great question.
Hmm.
This isn't just about numbers. It's
Okay.
about a massive influx of talent, energy, and new ideas.
Yeah.
For anyone in any field,
Mm-hmm.
it means the landscape is about to get a lot more competitive,
Okay.
a lot more diverse, and
Uh-huh.
potentially a lot more innovative.
Okay.
The skills that will be in demand
Mhm.
are likely those that can bridge cultures,
Right.
harness technology,
Yeah.
and solve complex problems on a global scale.
Now, this report
Yeah.
specifically looks at international education opportunities in Africa,
Okay.
especially for Australian providers.
Right.
What trends are we seeing there?
One of the most striking trends is the dramatic increase in African students heading overseas for education
Okay.
over the last 20 years. It's grown by a staggering 280%.
Wow.
In fact, the rate students are leaving sub-Saharan Africa to study abroad
Okay.
is double the global average.
Wow, that's huge.
And get this,
Yeah.
Campus France predicts that figure will double again by 2050.
So where are all these students going?
Okay.
What are the popular destinations?
Historically, France has been the top choice,
Right.
particularly for students from French-speaking African nations.
Mm.
Language plays a huge role in these decisions, and France has long-standing ties with many African countries.
Okay.
We're talking nearly 100,000 students from sub-Saharan Africa enrolled in French institutions just this year alone.
But the report suggests there's a new wave coming, right?
Exactly.
Like, okay.
While France still dominates,
Yeah.
English-speaking students,
yeah.
even in Francophone Africa,
Yeah.
are increasingly looking for educational opportunities in English-speaking countries.
Mm.
This opens up a huge potential market
Okay.
for countries like Australia,
Right.
the UK, and the US.
So how is Australia positioning itself in this race for talent?
Australia has seen a massive influx of students from sub-Saharan Africa,
Okay.
especially since 2021.
Hmm.
But here's the catch.
Uh-oh.
Recent changes to Australian student visa policies
Right.
have introduced some uncertainty,
Huh?
which is impacting how students perceive Australia as a study destination.
Ah, the ever-changing world of visas.
Yeah.
It seems like one step forward, two steps back sometimes.
Yeah, no.
But the report also mentions this concept of transnational education, right?
Yeah.
Or TNE,
Mm-hmm.
as a key strategy for Australian providers.
Yeah.
What exactly is TNE?
TNE is all about creating partnerships
Oh, yeah.
between Australian institutions and local African institutions.
Yeah.
It's about offering globally recognized courses
Yeah.
right there on the continent.
Right. So instead of students having to travel across the world,
Exactly.
you bring the education to them.
Yeah,
This seems like a win-win,
it is.
especially given the visa challenges. Yeah, definitely.
Does the report have any examples
It
of
definitely-
how this is working?
It points to the UK as a prime example
Okay.
of how effective TNE can be.
Okay.
In 2020-21,
Uh-huh.
UK universities hosted over 56,000 students from Africa in TNE programs.
Wow.
It clearly shows that
Yeah.
there's a strong demand for this kind of partnership model.
So there's a real opportunity for Australia to learn from the UK's experience
Yeah,
and ramp up its own TNE efforts in Africa.
definitely.
What's stopping them?
That's a good question.
Is it a matter of resources or are there other barriers?
Interestingly, the report suggests
Okay.
that cost and risk aren't the primary obstacles. African institutions are eager to collaborate.
Okay.
It seems like what's needed
Yeah.
is a more strategic and committed approach
Right.
from the Australian side.
It sounds like a bit of a wake-up call for Australian providers.
It could be.
They need to step up their game if they want to tap into this incredible pool of talent.
It's definitely a competitive landscape.
Yeah, France,
Right.
Germany, and the U.S.
Yeah.
are all actively vying for a share of this growing market.
Right.
But there's another crucial factor that's often overlooked.
Okay, what that?
And it's not just about who's offering the best courses.
Okay.
We're seeing a significant cultural shift happening within Africa itself,
Okay.
which is directly impacting the demand for certain types of education.
Now, this is where things get really interesting.
It is.
What kind of cultural shift are we talking about?
Well, historically, education in Africa has been heavily shaped by colonial legacies,
Right.
but with globalization and the rise of technology, there's a growing demand for educational experiences that are
Right.
more diverse,
Yeah.
globally recognized,
Right.
and relevant to the demands of the 21st century.
So African students aren't just looking to replicate the past.
Exactly.
We're looking for education that will equip them to compete on a global stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where Australia, with its reputation for flexibility, practical skills,
Yeah.
and innovation, has a unique opportunity to shine.
It sounds like there's a natural synergy there.
There is.
But as we've been saying, it's not just about offering courses.
Right.
What kind of approach does the report suggest for Australian providers
Okay.
to truly resonate with African students?
The report stresses the need for a nuanced approach
Okay.
that goes beyond just exporting an Australian education model.
Okay.
It's about understanding the specific needs and aspirations of African students
Right.
and tailoring programs to meet those needs,
Hmm.
building genuine partnerships,
Yeah.
understanding the local context,
Okay.
and creating educational experiences that are both globally relevant and locally meaningful.
So it's not just about filling seats.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that Africa is not a monolith.
Right.
Each of the 54 countries has its own unique culture,
Exactly.
history, and education system.
Yeah.
And this is where the complexities of language come into play. While English is becoming the dominant language of global business and education,
Right.
it's crucial to remember that French, Arabic,
Mm.
and Portuguese
Mm-hmm.
still play vital roles in many parts of Africa.
They do.
So Australian providers need to think beyond just offering courses in English
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
explore opportunities for multilingual programs, right?
Absolutely.
After all, Australia is a multicultural society
Yeah.
with a rich history of immigration and language teaching.
Mm-hmm.
They could leverage that expertise to their advantage.
They definitely could.
The report even goes a step further
It does.
and lays out specific recommendations
Okay.
for how Australian providers can navigate these complexities
Yeah.
and capitalize on the opportunities presented by Africa's education.
Right.
This is where it gets really interesting
Okay.
for anyone involved in international education.
Yeah.
What does the report suggest?
The overarching message is that a long-term strategic approach is key.
Okay.
It's not about quick wins, but about building sustainable partnerships
Okay.
and investing in the future of African education.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like planting a seed and nurturing it over time.
Hmm.
But what are some concrete steps Australian providers can take to implement this strategy?
The report emphasizes the importance of establishing strong relationships with African governments and educational institutions.
Okay.
It's about building trust,
Yeah.
understanding the local context,
Right.
and working collaboratively to develop programs
Okay.
that meet the needs of both sides.
It sounds like it's more about co-creating solutions
Absolutely.
rather than imposing an Australian agenda.
Yeah.
But how do you reach those students in the first place?
Okay.
What about marketing and recruitment strategies?
That's another key point.
Okay.
The report stresses the importance of tailoring marketing and recruitment strategies to the African context,
Right.
understanding cultural nuances,
Hmm.
aspirations,
Yeah.
challenges,
Yeah.
and crafting messages that resonate with African students,
Okay.
demonstrating that Australia understands their needs
Right.
and is committed to their success.
So it's about meeting students where they are,
It is.
both physically and digitally,
Right.
attending education fairs,
Uh-huh.
leveraging popular digital marketing channels in Africa,
Yeah.
being present,
Right.
accessible, and responsive.
You got it.
Another recommendation is diversifying program offerings.
Okay.
Recognizing that African students are looking for a range of educational experiences,
Right.
from traditional academic programs to vocational training
Yeah.
and online courses.
Okay.
It's about offering something for everyone.
A buffet of options.
A buffet of options.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to education.
Exactly.
And then there's the call for flexibility and innovation.
Okay.
The report encourages Australian providers to explore new models of delivery,
Yeah.
like blended learning, micro-credentials, and partnerships with African online learning platforms.
Yeah.
So be agile, be adaptable, be willing to experiment with new approaches,
Yeah.
and embrace the dynamic, ever-evolving nature of the education landscape.
It's all about that.
Got it.
Yeah.
But what about once those students arrive in Australia? What about support services?
The report doesn't shy away from that aspect either.
Okay.
It emphasizes providing tailored support services
Right.
for African students,
Okay.
pre-departure orientation, academic support, accommodation assistance,
Okay.
cultural integration programs,
Okay.
creating a welcoming and supportive environment where they feel valued, respected, and empowered to succeed.
That's really crucial.
It is.
It's about going beyond just providing an education
Absolutely.
and creating a holistic experience that prepares African students for success in their studies, careers, and lives. It's about seeing these students as individuals with unique needs and aspirations, not just as numbers on a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
This has been incredibly eye-opening.
It has.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
From the sheer scale of Africa's youth population to the cultural shifts driving educational aspirations and the specific strategies Australian providers can adopt.
Right.
It's clear this is a complex and dynamic landscape.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, really?
There's so much more to uncover.
Okay.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into even more intriguing insights from this report, including the growing role of technology in African education, the potential of partnerships with African diaspora communities, and the crucial role of government policies in fostering this exciting educational transformation. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Africa's education boom.
Thanks for having me back.
We've been unpacking the incredible potential
of this young-driven population and the opportunities and challenges this creates for education providers. Before we went away, you were mentioning that the report stresses understanding the nuances of different regions within Africa.
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, it's tempting to think of Africa as one big thing.
Right.
But it's a continent of 54 distinct countries.
Right.
Each one has its own unique history, culture, and its own education system.
Okay.
What works in Kenya might not fly in Senegal.
Right.
And vice versa.
So a cookie-cutter approach just won't cut it.
Nope.
This isn't a one-size-fits-all situation.
Exactly.
So Australian providers, or any providers, really need to do their homework. They need to understand the local context, what students need, even the economic and political realities on the ground, right? The report actually highlights the incredible growth of mobile technology in East Africa. There's huge potential for leveraging that technology to deliver innovative educational solutions.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
We hear so much about how technology is revolutionizing education, but it's easy to forget that access and infrastructure aren't equal everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't just assume a solution that works in Sydney will work in Nairobi.
It's about being smart and adapting to the local context.
Right.
And speaking of connections, the report also talks about the potential of partnering with African diaspora communities. Think about it. Those communities, often based in places like Australia, the UK, or the US, have incredible knowledge and networks.
It's like tapping into a network of people who are already passionate about advancing education in their home countries. That's brilliant. It aligns perfectly with this whole theme of collaboration and partnership that runs through the report. It's not about outsiders coming in with all the answers. It's about working with African institutions, communities, governments, building something together.
Building something together.
Which brings us to another big factor. The report highlights the role of government policies.
Yeah.
We talked about how Australian visa policies impact student perceptions. But what about the policies of African governments themselves?
They're absolutely critical.
Right.
Governments have this huge responsibility to create an environment where education can thrive.
Okay.
Investing in infrastructure, teacher training, quality assurance mechanisms, promoting innovation.
Right.
All of it matters.
So it's not just about attracting international providers.
Yeah.
It's about strengthening African education systems.
It is.
From the ground up.
And the report showcases some really positive examples of African governments doing just that. Several countries have introduced policies specifically to boost STEM education. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They recognize how vital those fields are for economic growth.
It's about equipping future generations with the skills they need to thrive in our tech-driven world.
Exactly.
But it's not all on governments, is it?
No, it's not.
The report also mentions the private sector, right?
Yes. We're seeing this surge of ed tech startups in Africa, creating solutions tailored to local challenges.
It's fantastic to see that entrepreneurial energy focused on education.
It really is.
What kinds of things are these startups doing?
They're tackling everything, from access to online learning platforms to developing educational content that's culturally relevant. And they're often led by young Africans who are passionate about using technology to make a difference. The report actually suggests that Australian providers should be looking to partner with these startups.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does.
The Australian institutions get local expertise and networks, and the startups get access to resources and a global reach. It seems like a win-win.
It really does.
But amidst all this excitement and potential, we can't forget about the ethical considerations.
That's a great point.
When you have this kind of rapid growth and so many players entering the market, it's crucial to ensure everyone's operating responsibly.
Exactly. The report really hammers home that Australian providers, or any providers for that matter, need to operate with integrity, transparency, and a deep commitment to social responsibility.
It's not just about making a profit.
No,
it's about making a positive impact.
Absolutely.
The report highlights key ethical considerations.
Things like avoiding the exploitation of students, ensuring the quality and relevance of the education being provided, and of course, respecting the cultural values of African societies.
It's about coming in as a partner, not a colonizer. Building bridges.
Exactly. And this ethical dimension is even more important when you're talking about T&E programs. It's all about building those partnerships based on mutual trust and shared values. But ultimately, what I find so inspiring about this whole report is its focus on the transformative power of education. It's not just about acquiring knowledge or skills. It's about empowering individuals, communities, and entire nations.
It's about unlocking human potential.
Exactly.
And as we've seen in this deep dive, Africa is truly at the forefront of this global education revolution.
It is.
It's changing the way we think about learning and work.
The report really captures that energy with a simple but powerful message. The future is African.
Wow.
It's a future full of challenges, but also immense opportunities. And education is going to play a pivotal role in shaping that future.
This has been an amazing journey so far.
It really has.
We've covered so much ground. Demographics, strategies, technology, ethical considerations, the sheer power of education to transform lives.
Powerful stuff.
But there's one piece of the puzzle we haven't touched on yet.
Oh, okay.
The rise of a new generation of African leaders.
That's right, and that's where we're headed next.
Okay.
We'll be exploring how this new generation is stepping up and shaping the continent's future.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into Africa's education boom. We've talked about the numbers, the strategies, the tech, the ethics, but what I'm really excited to dig into is this idea of a new generation of African leaders emerging. What's the report's take on that?
It's fascinating. Throughout this whole deep dive, we've been highlighting the ambition and drive of young Africans who are hungry for education. Well, now we're seeing those same individuals stepping into leadership roles across the continent. They're bringing fresh perspectives, innovative ideas, and a real commitment to changing things for the better.
It's like everything we've been discussing is coming full circle.
Yeah.
Education is empowering this new generation, and now they're using that empowerment to shape the future of Africa.
And what's really interesting is that many of these leaders have directly benefited from the educational opportunities we've been talking about. They've studied abroad, engaged with global networks, and then returned to Africa with a determination to apply what they've learned to solve local challenges.
It's almost like a ripple effect. Education creates leaders, and those leaders then create even more opportunities for education and development. That's incredibly powerful.
It really is. And this new generation isn't afraid to challenge the status quo. They're questioning old models, embracing technology, advocating for more inclusive societies. They're not just replicating the past, they're building something entirely new.
It's inspiring to see them taking ownership of their future, shaping it on their own terms.
Yeah.
What are some concrete examples of how this new generation of leaders is making a difference?
We're seeing it everywhere. Young entrepreneurs are launching social enterprises, tackling issues in healthcare, education, agriculture, you name it. Activists are using tech to mobilize communities and fight for social change. Artists and creatives are challenging stereotypes and promoting understanding through their work.
It's such a vibrant and diverse tapestry of leadership. It really speaks to the power of education to ignite change and inspire a new generation.
And here's the thing, this leadership isn't just happening in government or big corporations, it's happening at every level in classrooms and communities online. It's a grassroots movement fueled by passion, purpose, and a belief in a brighter future.
It's about challenging the world's perceptions of Africa and showing what's truly possible when you empower people through education.
And that brings us back to the heart of this entire deep dive. Africa's education boom isn't just about statistics, it's about human potential.
Yeah.
It's about unlocking the talent, the creativity, the leadership that exists in every young African.
It's about empowering an entire generation to build a future that's more just equitable and prosperous, not just for Africa, but for the whole world.
And as we wrap up this incredible exploration, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. As this new generation of leaders continues to rise, how can we as global citizens support their efforts? How can we contribute to making their vision for a brighter future a reality?
It's a powerful question that challenges us to move beyond simply observing and become active participants in shaping this new chapter in Africa's story. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener, full of possibilities, complexities, and a whole lot of hope. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.